So good afternoon students. Today we will start with 18 FT 504 Quality Assurance in Garment Production, and we will start with a new unit, that is unit 3, Quality Assurance in Fabrics and Accessories, and we will talk about establishing the spec sheet for raw materials and accessories. Students, we have talked about the quality, and we have the subject earlier also, where we have also compared with quality control and quality assurance, and we have also seen that how quality control can be done subjectively and also objectively. So today we will see another very interesting topic, that is the specification sheet of a garment. And what does it talk about? So establishing the specification sheet for raw material and accessories, this is the subject of discussion today, and herein we will try to see what is a specification sheet and what is its importance, and also we will see the different elements which are present in this specification sheet and how it is really helpful for the garment industry, both from the point of view of the factory, the merchandiser and also the buyers. This is also a very useful tool to understand what are the raw materials and accessories to be used in the particular order which has been placed by the buyer. It also will lead to the sourcing of those raw material and accessories. So in all aspects, this particular topic, that's why, is very important in this unit 3. Now students, you might be knowing now that how the garment manufacturing takes place, and today's manufacturing of apparel is really truly international, okay, and there is borderless manufacturing. That term also is applicable here. What do you mean by that, students? Now, when a buyer is placing an order of a particular garment, they can place the order in different areas of the world, okay. For example, suppose a buyer named as Tommy Hilfiger from New York is placing an order for a t-shirt, then he can place the order in different countries, for example India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and different good factories, they can place the order. So the manufacturing of that particular garment will take place in different factories. Obviously in Bangladesh, suppose a factory called Regency. In Sri Lanka there is a factory, suppose. So in that factory also they do the production like Brandix Textiles. And in India, if you are coming the manufacturing sector, then of course the Sahi Exports, they place the order for the same material. So that means the manufacturing is taking place in different corners of the world, and that's why manufacturing is international. Now this manufacturing, when you are talking, to do that manufacturing process also, we have to procure certain items in the form of fabrics, in the form of accessories, labels, or all sorts of things are there. So how about those things? Those things are also to be procured, okay, and it can be procured from different parts of the world. So in this context of establishing the specification sheets, we will talk about that aspect, how it is managed by the retailers. So as I already told you that suppose a retailer like a Tommy Hilfiger, they are placing the orders in many countries, okay, different parts of the world, and main objective of such kind of placing orders is that to get that particular kind of material, the apparel, at the right time. Because in one country if they place order, maybe there is some delay of that factory, but if they distribute that order in different countries, so there will be the chance of getting that particular commodity at the same time, so they can save the time also. So they can place the order in various countries. So this is the scenario in the apparel industry. Now designing and communication plays an important role for such kind of product, because when a particular retailer is placing the order in different countries of different factories, so they must communicate well. What are the things they will communicate? So design of that garment, okay, specifications of that garment, the material to be used in that garment. So all things are there in these communications. So we have to see now how it is getting done. So that product specification and their design is very important. Those things are there with the retailer and they have to communicate to the factories. Now how they will do it? That is the question. Now students, you can see that there are various kind of illustrations are there. Okay. Why such illustrations are used? Can you tell students? You see, this is well known that if any illustration is given instead of writing sentences, so things can be depicted very nicely and very easily. Because if you want to do really the communication through words, through sentences and all this, so many of the meanings of those illustration is lost in translation. That's why in this industry there is a procedure of doing such kind of illustrations or communication kind of thing of design and specification of the product. Okay. So how the specification sheet will play a major role to it? Yes, garment specification sheets are there and those sheets are used for raw material and accessories. Students, in the screen you can see now an example of a garment specification sheet. It appears that little bit of complicated because many things are narrated there, but those informations are useful. Buyers actually normally they communicate to different factories in different corners of the world through this kind of specification sheet, or it is a technical sheet. In that the drawing will be there, illustrations will be there of that garment. So different parts of that garment will be there. The different specifications will be there for those kind of fabric, those kind of different processings are used there, different accessories which are used there, what type of stitching has been used there, what type of processing has been done in printing, washing, etc. What type of labels are getting used there, okay, what type of measurements, how the measurements are done there, how the seam is placed there, how the pocket is placed in the garment if it is applicable, and also how the measurement of the garment is done. So all sorts of information in one sheet. Can you imagine, students, how useful it is? So that is there in the garment specification sheet, which talks about the raw material like fabric, raw material like accessories, like zippers, buttons, etc. Then the processing of the fabric, which type of processing are to be done in the garment. Then whether it is a garment washing, if there is any kind of printing has to be done, what type of printing has to be done. Then sewing, what type of sewing, what type of stitching is done in the garment, and finally what type of washing is there in the garment. All things are narrated in a single sheet. And also the measurement techniques. That's not all. In the specification sheet also there are indications or there are informations which talks about how it is getting packed and how in this packing condition it will be delivered. So all such important informations which are highly technical in nature, instead of putting in words, it is converted into a form of illustration. So that is there in the garment specification sheet. And usefulness of such a sheet, now students, you can imagine. Now let us see what are those items or what are those informations available in such kind of important sheet. It is a technical document, definitely, because lot of technical informations are there. So spec sheet contains the informations which are highly technical in nature. So that's why this is also called as a technical document. Okay. And this kind of technical document must be preserved correctly, okay, and it must be interpreted also correctly. One should understand the meaning of these technical terms, technical definitions, etc. So that's why specification sheet is also called as a technical document. Now students, can you recognize this particular image? What is this? This information is also there in the specification sheet. It is nothing but the construction details of the product. You can see in the picture that what are those areas, what type of collars have been used, okay, what type of buttons have been used, okay, what type of fabric has been used, what color has been used, what was the dye stuff was used into this, okay. So what are the measurement areas, different measurement points, etc. So all things are there in this construction details. What are the ends per inch, what are the peaks per inch in the fabric, what is the weight of the fabric. So all sorts of construction details of the yarn and fabric and processing details, everything is there into that. Students, what do you mean by this image? This is also coming under the specification sheet. What does it contain? This is a technical diagram or the sketch of the garment. So that must be there in the specification sheet in the form of some computer generated software. This kind of technical sketch can be incorporated inside the specification sheet, or we call it as a technical diagram also. And it depicts many things, that what will be the look of that particular garment, where the pocket will be placed, how the collar is placed, okay, how is the cuff. So all things are there in this technical diagram or technical sketch of the garment. What do you mean by these, students? In the specification sheet, there is also very important information, that is the measurement of the product, which is very important because according to the size, what are the different areas, the measurement areas are there, width, length, okay, the shoulder, all these things are the point of measurement. So how this point of measurement and what are the specifications of those measurement points of the particular garment, that is also integrated in this kind of specification sheet. Students, now you can really understand that what is the utility of such a specification sheet. In one such sheet can be used for many purposes. Only thing that people should understand that how to interpret that particular specification sheet or the technical document. Now you may ask me one question, whether such kind of technical documents is fixed or specification sheet is fixed, because once it is getting formulated or once it is getting done, is it all for that? We have to do as per that one. If there is any mistake or during the production stage, if any difficulty is faced, whether still we should continue with that specification sheet. What would be the answer, students, for this? Now, for all practical purposes and manufacturing tolerances, keeping in mind this kind of specification sheet is getting updated depending upon the situation. It also depends upon the buyer's choice. Today buyer has decided and giving the order, but tomorrow he may come out with different suggestions. Okay, by seeing the sample of that garment, he can modify the specification sheet a little. So that type of scope also is there inside the specification sheet. So the measurement of the product is one of the important areas of the specification sheet for that reason. But yes, the alteration is possible in all the areas of measurement, starting from the different areas like chest, waist and bottoms. So different area like a sleeve length, okay, biceps, armhole, front width, shoulder part. So all the areas actually are taken into considerations, and everywhere corrections or tolerances can be applied depending upon the requirement. Okay. So that is also one of the important points in the specification sheet. Students, what do you mean by this diagram? This is also an important point of this specification sheet, and sometimes we call this specification sheet as a blueprint of a product. Why it is called so? Blueprint of a product when you are talking, okay. So this is a technical pack or tech pack, we call it as, and it should be as comprehensive as possible, as detailed as possible, like this. So many of the areas it should be specified in detail. Okay, what is the collar area, what is the cuff area, how would be the design of that product, okay. So how is the arm side, okay, how is the button, all these things are all coming under the tech pack or technical pack. So it must be in detail, comprehensive as possible. Let us see, students, what are the other items which are there in this specification sheet. As we all know that it is a complete package and it covers all aspects of the product. Okay. Let us see what are those aspects also which are covered under this package and which is there in the spec sheet. Now you can see again the illustrations of this garment or the sketch of the garment in the front side view and the back side view of that particular product or particular garment has been shown here. Now students, what is this? When you are talking about a specification sheet, we should also talk about this image and what is the content of this image. This contains the packaging and the labeling part of the garment. Okay. So specification sheet, now what we understand, it not only contains the size or different specifications like raw material, accessories, okay, some measurement areas, all these things, but also it has that particular packaging and labeling informations also in the specification sheet. So now you can understand that a particular sketched garment, starting from the raw material throughout the processing, okay, procurement, and then finishing and packaging and labeling. So all informations are there in one sheet, or if those informations are not sufficient to cover in a particular specification sheet, some additional sheets can be continued with to cover up all the necessary informations. Okay. But one garment should contain only one such specification sheet, and this is the requirement of the industry. And if doesn't have that individual specification sheet, so there will be a lot of confusion, because the specification of one garment can be mixed with another, raw material, accessories can be mixed, processing can be different in different garment. So that's why one unique specification sheet is applicable for one garment only. So that is that specification sheet and different kind of informations which are available in the specification sheet. Interestingly, what is the packaging material to be used, okay, and what type of labeling will be used, that is also included in the spec sheet. Students, can you recall what is the meaning of this particular image? Yes, this is also there in the specification sheet, and these are nothing but the core lines or the styles. So you can see the different styles of garment, okay. Not one styles are similar to another one, but there are different styles, and different styles are having different core lines. Details are also there in these particular styles in the specification sheet. So this is also one of the useful informations, that what style is included there in the spec sheet or specification sheet, and the core lines we can also call it as, and details of those styles are also mentioned in the spec sheet. Let us see, students, that when you are talking about the specification sheet, how it is so important. The styles, when you are talking, so those styles are the basics, and core lines are also called the bread and butter lines of that particular style. So you can see the different styles of the garment, and you can see also that how the core lines are different for different kind of garments. So those are the basic points which are available in the specification sheet. So style or the core lines is also one of them. Now, while we are talking about the specification sheet and the usefulness of such a sheet, as we have already understood now, what are the important features of this specification sheet? Previously, I was talking to you that suppose we have done this specification sheet or sketch of the garment and decided all these raw material, accessories and also stitching, processing, etc. Whether it is fixed, then we have understood that no, it is not fixed. It can be changed. And for changing that, we have to review those garments. And if we find that yes, still some improvement is possible, fit properties are really affecting certain styles, okay, some change of the styles little bit, then adding, amending the informations, okay, wherever necessary, that is done in the specification sheet, okay. So when buyer actually gives the approval for a particular order, he or she must have this spec sheet with them, because this spec sheet only will tell about the cost of the garment also, because what are the fabrics you will use, what are the raw materials, accessories you will use, what type of processing are to be done into that, what type of packaging are to be used. So all these things are adding to the cost. So ultimately, the freight on board values are also determined by the specification sheet. It has its own importance, and this is one of the very important documents, not only to the buyer but also where they are communicating this. Communication of the information is must there, because we are in the era of borderless manufacturing, and truly manufacturing is international, as we have seen. So that is why the communication is very important about the product, and that can only be done through specification sheets. So utmost care, that's why, has to be taken while developing this specification sheet or determining various components of the specification sheet. I hope students you have understood this importance now of the spec sheets. Now what next is important? Let us see. You can see in that particular diagram, there are some red lines have been used there, okay. So any kind of corrections or amendment, if necessary, and if it is thought to be implemented by the buyer because of certain reasons, technical or commercial, then it has to be done. Amendment is necessary for that purpose. So that is why this sheet must be reviewed on regular basis until and unless the final product is getting formed. So that is the information available with this. Now students, can you recognize what is this picture? What does it depict? Can anybody say? Yes, this is also one of the important features of the specification sheet, which talks about illustration. Illustration is much more important than the text, because by seeing the illustrations, we can understand what will be the type of the fabric, what would be the type of the fit properties, what would be the type of the accessories. So all things are there through illustrations. So it is important rather than the text. So that is the reason always the garment manufacturers, buyers, they sit together and try to convert it, the illustrations, okay. in pictorial form, in photographs, etc. And second important point of this, as I already mentioned, that due to certain technical or commercial reasons, sometimes it is also possible that we have to make some changes in the garment specifications, okay, or the garment constructions, garment measurement, etc. So that is the reason the specification sheet must be regularly reviewed, okay, and buyer must be satisfied with it, any kind of such changes which are happening there. So that is one of the important features of specification sheet. The regular review will tell about the progress of the manufacturing unit and how the improvement has been taken place. And everywhere the approval of the buyer is must. Without approval of the buyer, this kind of amendment cannot be done. So buyer must be satisfied with it, and the factory must comply with all the informations or all the changes what is required. So amendment of the review is must in this specification sheet whenever it is necessary. Now specification sheet, when you are talking, or the tech pack when you are talking, the advantages are also associated with this. With such kind of technical document, when it is there before us, the quality standards also improvement is possible of the particular garment. So specification sheet also helps to produce a better quality garment, because all the materials are reviewed here. Specification sheet talks about quality also. What will be the quality of the dyes to be used, what will be the quality of the accessories, then quality of the fabric, all things are there under these quality norms. So when good quality materials are to be used there as per the specification sheet, obviously the garment which will be produced also will be of improved standard. When I am talking about the improved standards, I am talking about the quality standards, okay, quality of the garment. So that is one of the advantages of the specification sheet, or technical document, or spec sheet we call it as, or technical specification sheet. So when buyer reviews that with the specification sheet and the sample garment, and when the amendment is done, and with the amendment what is the quality standard, those things are getting reviewed thoroughly. And with that approach, obviously the quality of the product will increase in the specification sheet. Now students, what is the meaning of this particular image? Yes, it also helps the new suppliers to make correct samples with an accurate costing. So when such kind of approach is there, that improvement of the quality and the corrections are there in the process, and in that way a new supplier can really produce a correct sample. And when we do the correct sample, and when all the specifications are correct inside the specification sheet, then students, it is very easy to do the costing, because it is all specific, very specific in nature in the specification sheet. Starting from apparel, starting from your picture of the garment, and accordingly what fabric is to be used, what quality of accessories are to be used, okay. Then what type of label are to be incorporated into that, what type of processings are done. So all these things together will give the accurate costing of the product. So two-way it is beneficial then, as we are seeing. New suppliers, they get benefit out of the specification sheet to make the correction in the samples, and they can also really come up with the accurate costing through this specification sheet. So those are the advantages of maintaining such sheet and doing the work as per the specification sheet. And when we will do such kind of approach, okay, and total quality standards are improved through this process. So quality control standards also improved into this. Now students, you may ask now, how this specification sheet is originated? Who has formulated this specification sheet? Who should do it and how? So we must have some knowledge also about originating the sources of such specification sheet. Let us see how it is getting formulated. In one of the areas how it is getting formulated is that the buyer or the designer, okay, they discuss about the new ranges directly with the factories. So with the consultation of the particular factory, the buyer or the designer, they formulate and discuss the new ranges, what they want to produce for the market. So this is one of the ways that spec sheet can be originated, with discussion buyers and the factories. So everybody's opinion is taken into such kind of discussions, and new ranges can be formed or new ranges can be proposed into that. And this is one of the ways how specification sheet can be generated, by directly discussing with the factories. Now, how other ways this can be done? Can you imagine, students, how these originating sources will be there apart from this mere discussion with the factories by the buyer? Is there any other way to do this? Yes, there are some other ways also there. By arranging for approval samples to be sent at the head office. So approval samples are created on the spot itself and it is sent for approval to the head office. So buyer themselves, they create samples, and those samples are originated, or those samples are getting executed to the factory and sent to the head office for approval. So different approval samples then in this way can be created, okay, and these are created by the designer or the buyer, and this is also one of the sources of creating the specification sheet. Is there any other way, students, for doing such kind of things? Can you recognize what that this image talks about? Yes, here are certain kind of sources which really buyer utilizes during their visits to different countries. They may see different areas, like example, a particular buyer has visited Bangladesh or visited in India or in Sri Lanka. So they go into the local stores and they bought the samples from the local stores directly, and they create their specifications there itself and incorporate it in the specification sheet. So this is also one of the ways when the buyer in their visits to different countries, okay, they bought the samples directly from the stores and create the specifications by themselves and give it to the factories to execute the order. So this is also one of the ways by which the specification sheet can be generated. So those are the important aspects actually what we are talking. So far we have talked about three of the sources. One of the sources we have seen that how by discussion with the factory it can be done, or we have seen directly the order, the samples is getting produced and sent for head office for approval. And this is the third one, what we are seeing that buyer in their business trip, they go to different countries, they bought the samples and they create their own specifications and give it to the factories for execution purpose. So this is also one of the ways by which specification sheet can be generated. Hope students it is very interesting to you now to understand so far what is the specification sheet, what advantages we are getting out of the specification sheet, what are the contents in the specification sheet, and how the specification sheet or technical documents are generated. Okay, so those things are really important for us. Now specification sheets in the fourth aspects can be created also at the same time when the samples are made. Okay, so spec sheets initially created, samples are produced, and then that particular sheet is handed over to the buyer for approval, and buyer gets the approval from the head office and give it to the factories. So both are done in the same way or simultaneously, specification sheet creation and samples made out of that. So both things are together, this can also be made. Now what are the other aspects, students, into this? Yes, there are some other aspects are also there. By creating new variations from existing style specifications. This is very interesting. You see, in this business, a lot of styles are running styles. Okay. So sometimes buyer, what they do, they pick up the samples from the running styles and they create some modifications, okay, or the variations. So in that way, new variations when they create, so then the specifications will be a new specifications. Okay, existing styles are getting modified and a new style is getting created, so it becomes a new style. So this is also one of the ways by which the spec sheet can be created. So existing styles can be modified and different styles are there in the market, and from this figure you can see that there are 4 different styles are there. So they can be combined together, or variations can be made by the buyer, and the new styles can be created out of this, and a specification sheet will be the end result for it. And when the specification sheet is handed over to the factory, so they will produce as per that particular style, okay, modified style given by the buyer. So these are the different aspects, students, for different sources by which the specification sheets can be generated. Let us see, students, that when you are talking about the sources Okay. Then another aspects are there also, that existing specification sheets that can be updated also. A particular sheet is there before the buyer in previous season or before that, they modify that particular specification sheet, updating the specification sheet and create a new one. So it is a part and parcel of a new order. So it becomes also is one of the ways by which a new specification sheet is created by updating the existing one. So this is also one of the ways by which this specification sheet can be created. So the existing specification sheet, little bit of modifications has been done, okay, and then a new sheet is created for that. Little style change is done by the buyer and new style is created out of that. So new specification sheet comes into that. So it becomes very easy to the factories who have earlier executed the order. So they do little modifications and then by updating that, they generate a new style. So this is also one of the ways that specification sheet can be created. Now, one of the important aspects of the specification sheet, let us see now, students. They are the different elements of a specification sheet. Let us see, students, what are those elements. As I already discussed, these are the different aspects. In the image it is shown that how the pocketing is done, front side, back side, okay. How will be the appearance, okay, especially in the denim garment. So how the buttons are fixed there, how the pockets are fixed there. So what is the dimension of those items? All things are there and it is a part of the element of a spec sheet. Now students, can you recognize what is this picture or image talks about? This is also an important element of a spec sheet. This is the element number 1, we call it as. This talks about features of the styles, all features of the style. A particular style is there in the specification sheet, and what are the important features associated with that particular style. For an example, the collar of a garment or a cuff of a garment, okay, then the pocket of a garment, then different buttons or attachments in the garment, decorative parts in the garment, all are related to the features of the style. So that is coming under element number 1 in the spec sheet. So these are different aspects, students, for this specification sheet. Now let us see what else are there. As we can see in the picture, this is one of the examples of denim garment, and the elements or the materials which are there inside, that is described here. That is the buttoning. Different types of buttons you can see, students, now in the picture what has been used there and how it is fixed into the garment. So buttoning is one of the elements which are covered under this element 1. Pockets. What will be the size of the pockets? What will be the sketch of that particular pocket? Okay. Dimensions of the pocket. All things are included in this element. So based on that, this will be included in the spec sheet, and this covers the element number 1 in the specification sheet. Now in this element also we talked about the vents and the panels of a particular apparel product as is shown in the figure. It also includes the sleeves. You can see the different sleeves of a particular style. So this also coming under the element 1 in the specification sheet. Different sleeves, sleeve type, all these things are there in the garment. So students, you can see that how different sleeves are there. Sometimes it is a full sleeve, half sleeve, okay, different designs of sleeves which are there. So those are the part of element 1 of the specification sheet. Now in this element there are also cuffs, there are also yokes and also the collars, what we are talking here. So this is the examples of the collars. What type of collars will be there? It plays an important role in the garment, the collar design, the material what is used in the collar. So all these things are there in the specification sheets. Then also the yokes, okay, and so also the cuffs of a material, apparel product. So cuffs, yokes and collars, it is coming under element number 1. Element number 1 also describes very important feature, that is the fabric. What type of fabric is used? Is it a natural fabric? It is a synthetic fabric, or it is a blended fabric? All these things are described in the element 1 of the specification sheet. So the nature of the fabric, what has been used there, whether it is a natural fiber fabric or semi-synthetic, synthetic, all things are there in this particular element. This element also talks about certain informations to allow the pattern maker to produce a draft pattern, that is also covered under this element 1. Patterning, different patterns which are there used in the particular garment. So that information is there as an element in the spec sheet. Now when you are talking about element 2, what does it tell? Yes, it describes the embellishment incorporated into the design. This is very much required for a particular style, the embellishment part nowadays, because it adds to the aesthetic value of the apparel product. So embellishments are there everywhere nowadays. You can see in the jeans there are embellishment, in the normal garment there are certain embellishments, okay. So element 2 talks about these different types of embellishment that is incorporated into the design. It also talks about buttons and the stitching details. What type of buttons are used in the garment? Is a metallic button or wooden button or polystyrene button? What it is made of? What color button should be used? Okay, where it will be fixed to the material? And also this talks about different stitching, different type of stitching what is applied in the apparel. So those kind of stitching has to be made. The buttons and stitching, that is also becoming the part and parcel of element 2. Now element 2 also covers zippers, domes, etc. You know, the different garment they are having different zippers. There are different types of zippers available, as we have already seen in previous units, that plastic zippers are available, metallic zippers are available. Then there are normal zippers are available, hidden zippers are also available. So those are all in the part of element 2 of the product specification, or it is there in the specification or the spec sheet of a particular garment. And different types of domes what has been used, that is also coming under element 2. Students, I hope you can recognize this. Yes, these are nothing but the D-rings. So element 2 also covers D-rings. It also covers different types of toggles, okay? Different types of toggles which are used in the garment. So that specification, the material of that particular toggles, that are also specified in the specification sheet and becomes a part and parcel of element 2 of our categorization. Now element 2 also covered different types of prints. As you all know that different types of prints are there in the market, that is a screen printing, block printing, okay, roller printing, or what type of printing it is. Is it a transfer printing, okay, embossing, embossed printing, okay. So a lot of printing methodologies are there. So what kind of foil printing? So all printings are there under this element 2. Different embroideries, that is also covered under that. Different embroidery threads are used in the garment, okay. Different types of embroidery which is used. Different types of prints, whether it's a digital printing, okay, whether it's a normal printing. So all these printing areas are covered in the element 2 of the product. Students, can you recognize what is this shown in the figure? Yes, this is nothing but the location is very important. Embellishments are there which are covered under this element, but where this embellishment will be placed. So correct placement of the embellishment, that is also important and covers a part and parcel of element 2, okay. So positioning or the location of the embellishment, like here in this particular figure you can see the embellishments are there in the top part of the garment. So that is very important, the placement of the embellishment. Now element 3, when you are talking, we talk about the interior of the garment, okay. So interior of the garment, when you are talking inside what is there in the garment, that it talks about the detail in terms of construction, it talks about fabrics, it talks about the finish. So different garments are there. So construction, the fabric used, finished. So all interior part of the garment is covered under this element 3. We are also nowadays in the garment, a lot of washes have been given here in the form of a finish. It changes the look, it changes the feel in the terms of finishing. So those kind of different washes are also mentioned in the specification sheet in detail, what type of washing has to be carried out in the garment. So that is also a part of the element 3. Students, can you recognize what is this? It is the inside part of a garment and basically it is a nothing but a lining. So any kind of lining material, that also comes under this element 3. Labels, different types of labels. Students, you know about the labels, that different types of labels which are used in the garment. So those also are covered under element 3. So these are the different types of labels which are used in the garment, okay. So this is the part and parcel of element 3, lining and different labels. Now element 3 also talks about the stitching details, how different panels are stitched together. So stitching details, then the tabs, what is used in the garment. So those are also covered under this element 3. So in the figure you can see that different parts are how it is, different panels are stitched together and different tabs are there inside it. So students, that element 3, when you are talking, it also talks about not only the interior material of lining, fabric, etc. or the finish, it talks about interior pockets also. Sometimes interior pockets are also used. So those elements are there as is shown in the figure. So those interior pockets are also a part of element 3 of this specification sheet when we try to classify it. Now as you see in the picture, the front and back of the garment, and element 4, it talks about the description information which is recorded there in the garment, and that is covered under element 4, the garment description information both in the front side and the back side of the garment as is shown in figure. Now what do you mean by this? You can easily recognize, students, that element 4 also contains the workplace procedures, how that particular garment is to be produced, the ethics. Okay, so safe working environment must be there to produce the garment. All ethical norms must be fulfilled and garment must be ethically produced. The factory should not have any child labor, forced labor, no discrimination, no corporate or corporal punishment. Health and safety issues in the factory must be maintained, must be there a management system. All these things should be in place in the working area. So that covers under element 4, workplace safety. Okay, hazards, health hazards, all are coming under this category. And this kind of description will be in the form of written notes, and the description also take in the form of measurements, different areas of measurement of the garment. That is also a part and parcel of element 4, descriptions. And also this description talks about the sketches of the garment which are to be produced, which is covered under this spec sheet. This also include the written descriptions of the garment, okay, different important features of the garment, its size range, what are the different size that garment has to be produced. It is a small size, medium size, large size, extra large size. So all these things are mentioned there, and their dimensions are also mentioned there inside this. So different size ranges are also mentioned in the garment. Different colors by which this garment has to be produced. So that color range as per the Pantone shade card, that also must be incorporated in this element 4. So different color range are to be specified in the spec sheet in the element 4, and that must match with the standard Pantone shade. Fabrics, linings and interlinings all are part and parcel of this element also. Special stitching, if it is done, that also covers under this category. Style identification number, that we already seen that there are certain identification number or registration number, but here this is a style identification number. This is very important to identify a particular style from different lots. So that style identification number also must be there in the element 4 under this specification sheet. Garment making instruction, how the garment has to be prepared, that must be clearly specified and become a part and parcel of this element 4. The label, the placement of the label, level informations, that is also important in this area, and what are the informations available, like in this particular example the care level instruction is there. So in this fashion, students, we have covered the importance of the specification sheet, why the specification sheet is prepared for the garment, and we have also seen that what is the originating source, how the specification sheet is getting prepared, different ways how it is prepared, the specification sheet, okay, different sources how it is prepared. And also we have seen different elements. In that we have seen that 4 different elements are there which forms actually a specification sheet or a technical document. And in those elements, the fabrics, trims, accessories, the nature of stitching, the color what has to be used, then style, then different specification of the accessories, different prints, different finishes in the form of wash. So all things are covered as a raw material in the front and back part of the garment, of the inner part of the garment in the form of lining. It also includes the pocket strength, then different buttons which are used there, studs which are used in the garment. So that is the importance of the specification sheet which we covered today. So thank you very much students for attending this class. We will come up with a new chapter in the next lesson. Thank you very much.